Mr. Ambassador. My understanding is that there's two ways the mandate of the African Union mission in Darfur could increase. The first is that the UN Security Council could pass a resolution for increased mandate Chapter 7, or the second being the African Union could expand the mandate on its own, and then they obviously have to consent from the Sudanese government to work with that expanded mandate. Given sort of the two different, we've seen President Kagame say that Rwandan troops won't stand by and watch genocide, but then we see the Nigerian president glossing over, it seems like glossing over what's happening on the ground. Is there talks within the African Union to take the second route, since it seems like the UN isn't going to do anything, or at least not quickly enough?
Yeah, certainly they are discussing about that possibility that you should have a mandate to protect people. Well, that's there. But of course, there may be different voices, and these voices may not necessarily come from African Union, but they may also come from security countries. That's why I was saying there must be unanimity about these things. And when there is unanimity, certainly, usually it will work out. But certainly, as our president said, even from the very, very beginning, he said it's useless to protect the observers when people are being killed. So there is a lot of debate going on, but this unanimity is. This is what I said, the international mechanism does not really have this inability mechanism to respond to some of these things very quickly. And that's why I thought that you give more capacity to African Union, the more you decentralize some of these decision making, you decentralize them to African Union, maybe it may be quicker. So.
Stu, and then back there.
If the AU is able to neutralize the Janjaweed militia, how can we be sure that the Sudanese government will not find another way to commit crimes against Darfurians and implement its corrupt agenda? Because it seems to me that we have the problem of an under-financed AU and the problem of a corrupt regime, and that these two problems are separate and have separate solutions.
I mean, the only way that is might be to solve this tragedy or this problem in Sudan, to take off this regime out of the power. Because the same regime now who have used the religion as aspect in the conflict between southern and northern now use the Arabism and racial in the conflict in west of Sudan. If there is an entity or a body can put a pressure to neutralize the Janjaweed, there is enough other elements Sudanese government can use in another conflict in different parts of Sudan. So the eastern Sudan now has its own problem, and it is in its way to the public and to the media. So people being killed in east of Sudan and nobody paying attention because of Darfur problem. So the only solution now, the tribunal or international criminal court, which will dismantle this regime. If you take 11 politicians from this regime and another 17 security force members, so that is a great number which will affect this regime. And we've been waiting for international criminal court or tribunal or whatever to send a strong message to this regime and to dismantle this regime from its base there in Sudan. And now the problem will be solved. But there is no other way for any entity or body to neutralize the Janjaweed and think that the problem will be finished, because the government will be able to mobilize another group against another.
Maybe, could I have a question or a response there? Why don't we respond?
I agree entirely. In fact, I published a piece in the Washington Post that was given a very apt title, Regime Change in Sudan, last August, which took enormous nerve on the part of the Post, I think, to publish. And it is the only long-term solution. These guys, though, are ruthless survivalists. They have survived since 1989, and you don't do that when you represent so little of Sudan unless you're really good at what you do and you're really ruthless, and they're both. we need to distinguish between the long-term solution, which is the only solution for Sudan, and the short-term need to protect hundreds of thousands of lives. Hundreds of thousands of lives. If Jan Egeland is right about the consequences of insecurity, creating a condition on the ground in which NGOs withdraw, and we're seeing mortality rates at a level of 100,000 a month, we can't look back and say, well, we were trying to change the regime. We have to protect those civilians now. And protecting civilians requires, indeed, that we deal immediately with the Janjaweed. The Janjaweed will, if there is an adequately sized intervening force, withdraw really quickly. These are not soldiers in an ordinary sense, and they would not stand up for a moment to a real military presence on an adequate scale with robust rules of engagement. But the other problem is humanitarian capacity. We haven't talked about that, but unless there is a massive increase in humanitarian capacity, a virtual doubling of what's presently there, the 3 to 4 million food-dependent people, humanitarian assistance-dependent people, will see in this coming rainy season phenomenal mortality. And we can only increase this capacity now by essentially military means, military logistics, military transport.